evening, family. How are you doing on this Thursday night? Hey, welcome to this week's edition of What's Going On? This is yours truly, your host, Pastor Akim Bandele, New Covenant, right here in Houston, Texas. We welcome all of you to our program tonight. I want you to help us share the video on all your social media. And also you can comment on YouTube and we'll be glad to read your comments and also your questions. If you are not subscribing to our channel, you can do that right now. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you hit that notification bell so that every time we go live or we have important videos for you, you will get notified. Again, welcome to this week's edition of What's Going On. Well, family, you know, a lot has been going on, and we have an awesome program for you on tonight. We are going to really be talking about the major events that's happening with our police departments all over the country. And we want to not just talk about it, but actually dialogue with people that are there, that are walking those streets. People that have been there for years working with the police departments of every city, in every state. But I have a special guest tonight, amen. You don't want to miss him. We're going to be talking about the George Floyd's case and how it ended, and how also the ex-officer was sentenced and guilty on all the 3 counts. And we're going to talk about how you guys feel about that. And then we'll dialogue a little bit about about Adam Toledo, that was also shot by a police officer. And we'll also talk about Mackay Bryant, that also was shot by another police officer. Let me just say this to all of you. We love our law enforcement men and women. They are doing a great job. They are keeping us safe. Amen. Without the police departments in every city, we will have chaos all over the country. So I want to let you all understand, we appreciate our police officers. We appreciate our sheriffs. We appreciate all our law enforcement officers that put their lives on the line every day, not knowing whether they're going to go back home to their own families. But they try to protect us. They try to help us to stay safe on the road, in our homes. And when tragedy happens, when we call 911, we call them, they come out. We thank God for them and what they are doing. I know there has been so much division in the country about all the police shooting, and some people have, made it to make it a case to where they feel like, oh, we need to defund the police departments. Oh no, we need the police department. We need them to continue to do their job. But we'll talk about all the killings. And tonight, I have a special guest with me on tonight, Lieutenant Jazton Heard from Missouri City in Texas. Lieutenant Heard, how are you doing tonight?
I am blessed. No complaints, no complaints. Very happy to be here and have some dialogue with you.
Thank you so very much for taking time out to join us tonight on this broadcast. You came highly recommended by the Chief of Police, by the way.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Sir. Yes, sir. When I called the Chief of Police of Missouri City today, that's a great thing about that. I called him, he answered the phone, he talked to me, he remembered our conversation in the past. And I asked him to be on our program tonight to talk about all of this police shooting. And he said, Pastor, I'm kind of getting old. And he was just kind of really joking and all that. He said, you know what? I won't be the best one to be on this program. He said, I've got a man that you need to get on the program. He said, he actually had an engagement tonight. And I told him I'm going to postpone it till next week. He said, no. I'm going to have one of my lieutenants, the best, call you, and he'll be on the program tonight. So you came highly recommended by the Chief of Police of Missouri City. Amen. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
He definitely leads by example and is doing a great job with our department. So We really
Amen.
appreciate
Well,
it.
we're going to say a word of prayer before we get started tonight. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this opportunity to come together on this medium to dialogue with our police officer from Missouri City, Brother Jazton Heard, Lieutenant Jazton Heard. We thank you for their service to the city and all the police officers in every city in our country. Lord, I pray that you will allow us to dialogue tonight and speak that will uplift one another. Questions will be answered. We just pray that we will have peace on this medium tonight, that we will respect each other's views. We will let love reign even as we dialogue on tonight. I want you to have your way in this program tonight. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. All right. Well, Lieutenant,
Yes,
tell
sir.
us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your experience. I know you're a lieutenant with Missouri City as a police officer. You told me 12 years. Tell us about your experience in the police force.
Okay, okay. I started my career in 2005 as a jailer at the Harris County Sheriff's Office, which is in Houston. It's the big city and the big jail. And I got my initial experience there, got my feet wet, working with the prisoners, and eventually uh, I decided, well, if I'm going to be in this field, I need to continue to move towards the top. And so I
Amen.
made the decision to go to the police academy in 2009, and that was the same year that I got on at the Missouri City Police Department. And it was a great decision coming from Harris County and then coming out to the suburbs where, it was just a total different experience and total different element for policing. And it's actually interesting on how I got into policing. When my father told me that Missouri City was hiring, I initially said, I don't think I want to go to Missouri City. And he asked me why. And it was because actually, when I was a teenager, I had a negative experience with one of the police officers. And my dad that day told me, he said, well, you can be a part of the group that's complaining about it, or you can be a part of the group that's want to do something about it. And I
Wow.
felt that that was a challenge. And my dad knows I love challenges. So I say, you know what? I'm going to Missouri City. And several years later, I actually ended up becoming that person's supervisor. Uh,
Oh,
but
wow.
one of the things that many people always ask me is like, well, if I was a supervisor, I would do this and do that, and I always respond by saying it's not about me. It's way bigger than me, and that would discredit all of the work that I'm doing by trying to just get personal vindication against that person. But it's my personal mission to make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody else, and nobody goes throughout life and always feel bad about police under my watch. So but since I've been here in Missouri City, I've done the patrol. I've been on patrol officers. I've been a patrol officer, shall I say. I've done undercover work. I was a detective for a while. I got promoted to sergeant. I worked night shift sergeant duties. I also became the community resource officer or sergeant for about 4 years. And then I got promoted to lieutenant. And I've also been on the SWAT team for about 8 years. So I've
Oh,
been in
wow.
just about every division here in
Yes.
Missouri City. It's been a blessing. I'm always looking for new things, always trying to be the absolute best I can in policing. So,
Thank you, Lieutenant Justin, for that. Man, what a just wealth of experience.
yes,
And
sir.
I'm so excited that the Chief of Police recommended you to be with us on tonight. Well, let's start tonight with George Floyd's murder case. And by the way, all our visitors on YouTube, if you have any questions or any comments, we will try to take those comments and those questions. So be respectful of each other, and please be respectful of my guest. If you make any derogatory comments, I'm not even going to read your comments. I'm just going to ignore you. So we want you to be respect of our officer, respect my guest on tonight, even as you ask your questions. I thank him for being able to join us. Well, let's talk about ex-officer Chauvin that has been found guilty on 3 charges 3 counts for the murder of George Floyd. As a police officer, watching that case, watching the videos, what is your opinion? What is your impression? Because I know that's a fellow officer like yourself. How do you feel about what happened, and how do you feel about the case?
Yeah, George Floyd. That is a huge topic, and I know I'll answer this definitely as a police officer, but I always remind people that I've been a black man a lot longer than I've been a police officer.
That's right.
And just being in law enforcement with all of it's becoming very diverse. It always been a little diverse, but it's becoming really diverse now. I always tell people, hey, if you come in as a female or a black man or Hispanic man or white man, whatever it is, you do us no good by trying to act like someone else. You be yourself. So I'm a big proponent of I am who I am. I was raised how I was raised, and I know my culture. So first and foremost, as a black man, it was definitely hard to watch,
Yes, sir.
and not only the videos, but also see my entire community hurting and just extremely stressed out about this the George Floyd incident. So it first came at home, and it was very painful to watch, and like I
Yeah.
said, very painful to see people all across the nation of many cultures just being, I mean, just tormented by what they saw. But then, as a police officer, it also was upsetting to me because the first thing that I saw was a lack of training. And
Hmm.
I immediately thought to myself that things could have been better and things should have been done differently. And I immediately started questioning myself, like, well, what would I do? And I know
Yeah.
that what I would do would have been much differently, whether I was um, Mr. Chauvin, and, with the knee on his neck, or whether I was one of the officers there or a supervisor responding. So it was very disappointing to see. It was even more disappointing that Mr. Floyd had to lose his life
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
this whole entire situation and ignite the whole world. So it was a whirlwind of emotions
Yes.
because of where I stand and who I am. But
Yes,
it
sir.
was it was definitely very disappointing, and I think amongst all of my colleagues, I haven't heard one colleague, say that they approve of what that officer did and his actions. Everyone that I've talked to is always saying, "Man, I just don't understand it," or "He could have done this," or "He should have done that." And no matter what the circumstances was around Mr. Floyd and him potentially being intoxicated and all that, either way, once you seize a person, you have the duty to take care of them and make sure that they get the medical attention that they need.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. And that's the same thing I said. I say, when I was watching that case, I say, it's not a crime for me to be drunk.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not a crime for me to be on drugs. It's
yeah.
not a crime for me to be homeless. It's not a crime for me to smoke cigarette. It's not a crime for me to have high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart condition. I don't deserve to die
Right,
regardless of my health challenges. That's why we go to the hospital.
right.
Okay, regardless of whether my heart was bad, blood pressure, high cholesterol, mental problem, it really didn't matter. He didn't deserve to die, regardless of his personal problems. We're not saying George Floyd was a saint, but he was a human being. He was a human being. Let me ask you one more question on that. There were other officers there, and I know the ex-officer that murdered George Floyd was the most senior among them. If you happen to be with your partner out and they were acting like that, and your partner is actually your senior, what could you do as an officer?
Yeah, I've been a young guy on the block my whole career, so I'm kind of used to it. But it doesn't matter if it was the chief of police or if it was the assistant chief or the captain, or it doesn't matter who it is. I've been on SWAT for about 8 years now. I've just recently been appointed as the SWAT commander, and
Congratulations.
thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited about that position, but I see officers under stress quite a bit. And because I train hard and I intentionally stress myself out during these situations, I typically things slow down for me in these types of situations. So because I take my job serious and I love to train, I love to make myself better. I love to challenge myself in the training environment so that when it
Yes, sir.
comes out here to the real thing, I'm ready. I'm sharp and I'm ready to go. Uh, I know that a lot of times I process or am processing things at a little bit higher level than some other people around me. But I
But okay,
know,
okay, but Lieutenant Heard,
yes, sir.
Lieutenant Jazton,
Yes, sir.
if you were the officer that was there
Yes.
while that was going on,
Uh-huh.
legally, or what could you do to the officer that was kneeling on somebody else's neck? I mean, what could you do?
Yeah, I'll take him off his neck. If I was there, if I was in that situation, I would remove him. And it's a little different from me too because I'm a ranking officer too. So typically, as soon as I say something, it gets done. But
Okay.
even if I was an officer and he was an off fellow officer, and I saw that he was on this guy's neck and we're not getting him the medical attention, the right thing to do and I've seen officers, talk about this several times before, is you remove them from that situation. You move them
Yeah.
off to the side and say, hey, no, we got it. Let us take care of it and let him go off to the side. But I'm going to separate you from Mr.
From that
Whoever that
situation.
on
Yeah.
and say, hey, look, hold up, man. We need to get him some type of medical attention. We have the duty to take care of him now. And case law
Okay.
actually supports officers taking the right actions, and it says that officers have the duty to, protect those citizens who may be getting harmed by another officer
And to render help.
and to render help.
Render
Absolutely.
help. Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for those comments. All our viewers that are just joining us, this is Pastor Akin Bandele on this week's edition of What's Going On. I have Lieutenant Jazton Heard from Missouri City, came highly recommended by the Chief of Police in Missouri City, and is with us tonight. And we were just talking about George Floyd's death and the murder case, and his opinion and what he would have done if he was in that situation with another officer trying to hold somebody down on their neck, as long as the ex-officer Chauvin did. Well, with that said, Lieutenant, help me tonight. While the case was going on, Adam Toledo gunned down by a police officer. Mikhail Bryant, a young lady, 15-year-old young lady, gunned down by a police officer. Now, I watched the videos. I actually watched the video of Adam Toledo. He had a gun. He had a weapon. Now, whether he pointed it at the officer or he had it on, every officer wants to be able to get back home with their families too. They have wives and husbands and children too. And they are supposed to keep us safe, and they are not supposed to be a shooting target for citizens of our cities. So when I watched that video, I thought, well, I empathize with Adam Toledo's family, but at the same token, you were running from the police. You were running from the police, and it was just, to me, it was just totally horrible. Now, there was with McKay Bryant, the video that I saw, she literally had a butcher knife when the police shows up. Well, let's talk about all this, because people are saying, well, the police should not shoot. They should have just shot the hand or shot them in the foot. I thought, well, police officers are trained to shoot, to kill bad people that's trying to hurt the community. So Lieutenant Heard, help us understand what's going on with all of these shootings by the police officer, because many of the people that are being killed are also, the comments I'm hearing from our constituencies, they are all African Americans or the minorities. And I even had somebody online that told me, well, I saw a video of a Caucasian guy that just killed 4 people. The police brought him out, put him down by the side of their car, and gave him a 16-ounce bottle of cold, pure life water. I mean, they treated him so well, and here you have somebody that was on, they said maybe had a counterfeit $20 bill, killed. What is your, I mean, talk to us. How should our community react to this, especially when it seems like the justice system has two sides, one for certain group of people and another one for another race of people. As an African-American lieutenant police officer in Missouri City, when you look at Adam Toledo's case and McKay Bryant, and there was another one actually, but I don't remember his name. When you see all of this police shooting, what do you think?
So I'll start off by, kind of, speaking on the fact that officers do not shoot to kill. They shoot or use deadly force to stop the threat.
Okay? Thank you for that correction. So they use deadly force to stop or to stop the threat.
Yeah, so we use any force to stop the threat.
So some of you guys online that have been commenting like you know what you're talking about, well, we're hearing from the horse's mouth. We're hearing from our officer. They are trained to use deadly force to stop a threat. And many times, it becomes a casualty. So all these comments online that say, "Oh, the police they just trained to kill." So thank you for kind of commenting on that. Also, thank you, officer.
Absolutely. In those two situations, or like I said, and I always start off with, I hate when anytime an officer has to use deadly force and have to shoot someone and they end up taking someone's life. It is not a great day. It is not a good day at all. I can't say that any of the officers that work for me or I work with or just even supervising me, I've never heard anyone be excited to kill, and that's not something that I think I've ever heard in my career. Most of the people that come into this career field, they just want to protect people. They want to protect all of the good abiding citizens from the people who you want to breach the peace and harm people. So I start off with that, but then moving into Toledo, I think that officer, he had received like a shot notification. So they have technology in that area to where anytime there's gunfire, it instantly notifies their dispatch center, and it's been very effective with them in limiting the shootings in the Chicago area. That officer is right on top of it, finds two people, and then one of them take off running. So you think about it, as a police officer, and one of the biggest things that's missing in people evaluating or anybody evaluating these situations is, for a moment, you always got to put yourself in that officer's shoes. It's easy to sit back on the next day, or what we call Monday morning quarterback, and say, "Oh, you should have did this, you should have did that." But sometimes ask yourself, "Okay, well, what would you have done?" And then let's go through those options to see if they're really realistic. And so he takes off running. So now you're at night, you're running through an alley, and this person it's confirmed that there's some shots have been fired, and then this person stops suddenly. So I totally agree with him, at least pulling his gun out on him, because okay, well, this person likely has a gun. And then that very fast movement with Mr. Toledo trying to throw the gun around the fence and raise his hands at the same time was fatal, and it was something that it caused him his life. And he thought that, I guess, because if that officer, when he turns around fast like that, what is the officer supposed to expect? We know,
because the officer could take fire from him too.
Yeah, because you already decided that you wanted to get away. So you in our mind, or in anyone's mind, so you're saying you don't want to go to jail first and foremost. So has that instantly changed in this 1 second encounter? Like 1 second, you just say, I'm not going to jail. Okay, well, I start checking into, okay, he doesn't want to go to jail, but he's not turning around and facing me. He's not showing me his hands. He's not giving me the body language of a person who wants to just, surrender and go to jail. He's turned away from me. He's concealing something. Is he going to attack me? So I don't know what will happen in that case, but I can say that anytime that you run from a police officer, uh, you're going to make them, weary of, or why would you just start to comply now? You didn't want to comply, and then all of a sudden you do, especially at night and it being
Yeah, in an
stuff
alley.
like
Yeah.
that. So I just always challenge people, no matter what situation you're looking at, you need to put yourself in that officer's position. We actually have some technology where we have like scenarios that are on a screen, and we commonly have citizens come in and they participate in doing these little police scenarios, and we give them a gun belt and we give them a firearm and we give them a taser and we say, hey, police officer, go for it, you do it. And people then get to see firsthand how quickly these incidents happen. When you're
Yeah.
put under stress, no matter what it is, you get like tunnel vision and auditorial exclusion, and stress makes you not be able to see certain things. So we put this gun belt on people, and commonly they miss many things. They miss many details. They're like, oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. And
Wow.
unfortunately,
Wow.
they get killed sometimes, or they end up shooting someone for no reason. But I think that's what it takes for you to be able to actually put yourself in those shoes, and now be responsible for fixing this situation, and not just sharing your comment on social media. And then uh, moving into Miss, I think it's
Oh,
Makara.
before we move to Makai Bryant,
Makaya.
let's stay with Adam Toledo for a minute.
Okay.
Viewers, if you have questions for Lieutenant Jazton Heard from Missouri City Police Department, please put your comment down and we will ask him. But Lieutenant, let me ask you a question. If I was Adam Toledo, I didn't want to go to jail. I was running from the police officer trying to get away because I know I have a firearm. When the officer gave the command for me to surrender, if he had not turned around, but just threw the gun in front of him with his back to the officer and his hands up, could that have ended a little bit differently?
There's the potential for it 100%. There's a potential because officers, most of the time, they're reading body language. Adam, in the videos that I saw, his body language didn't say I want to surrender until the absolute last millisecond where he turned around very fast with his hands up. So if that officer starts to get some feedback, I believe that, if he's seeing in the body language that this person wants to give up, well, you can see that in a person. You can see their hands going up. You can see, hey, look, I'm laying down, I'm surrendering. And then I think that it could have changed definitely the outcome of that situation.
So the outcome could have changed, even though the officer knew he had a gun. I believe it probably did. If Adam Toledo had taken that gun, threw it in front of him, the officer could see it and his hands up, but don't even turn around.
Yeah.
I've been told that people are not supposed to be shot in the back. Is that a possibility that he may have still been with us if he had done that?
Yeah, I think the best option would have been to just not run and comply from the beginning.
Okay.
Like not run at all was your best option. And trying to get rid of the gun was not. We arrest people that have guns on them all the time, but you won't see that on social media. You won't see all the great encounters that we have. You won't see, Hispanic man or black man not being killed, but being arrested with a firearm. I mean, that's common. But most of those people comply.
Okay.
Most of those people comply.
So the worst case was he ran. So even though if Adam Toledo had stopped, and now if the gun was in his hand though, I mean, what was this? The gun was not in a holster or anything like in his hand. Don't run, but drop the gun on the floor.
I think that at that moment you just have to comply with what the officer is asking you to do. We've been in situations, as a matter of fact, an unfortunate situation that I just dealt with a day or two ago. where when the officers came in the house, the person was pointing a gun at them.
Woo.
That person didn't get killed or anything. They retreated, and we talked to them from there. You know, so there's so many different dynamics to
Okay.
these type of situations. You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
we try to give hard and fast rules to a lot of things, but unfortunately, just as if you even compare all of the notable events that seem to be all up and down the social media feeds and on the news, none of them are the same, right?
That's
Like
true. That's true.
in
You're
the
right.
last few years, let's go years and talk about, none of them were like the exact same. You
That's true.
know, you really have to hand pick these unfortunate situations from all across the nation to be able to find that one that just hits the heartstrings just enough to where it gets people emotional and make us feel that, oh man, it just has to be horrible out here, and every
Wow.
black person is going to get killed. If I thought for any moment that any of my colleagues were just out here to kill, I would get out of law enforcement. I would absolutely get out. It with no
Wow.
question
Wow.
at all. I would not be here. Like at all.
Wow.
And I would tell on them so fast. But it's not, what I mean, but that's not what the case. I look at these people every day, these officers, these professionals, and I see in their eyes that they really do genuinely want to help people,
And
and
love the people.
yeah, and they love people. So, you know,
Well, let's talk about Miss Bryant.
yes,
Miss Bryant with a knife, about to butcher somebody else,
yeah,
and the police officer was called. He showed up, but McKay Bryant ended up dying from several gunshots from the police officer.
yeah,
My concern when I saw the video, that was that, number one, that lady in pink outfit was the one that Miss Bryant was going after with a knife. Close proximity. Other people, close proximity. To discharge a firearm, I'm going, whoa, what, it didn't settle well with me, that because, especially with 4 shots, the lady that was trying to be protected, the lady in pink, could have been shot too. And the bystanders that were all fighting that could have been shot. Is there something that could have been done? Because the woman was far from the police officer, number one. Yes, she had a knife. Yes, she was going after somebody that they had been fighting. Anyway, could something else been done to diffuse that situation without it turning fatal? Because it could have been multiple dead people during that shooting with 4 shots, and the lady in the pink was close proximity, and a few other people close proximity to that police officer. What is your opinion? What do you think?
One of the first things that an officer must know about himself or herself is their capabilities.
Okay.
So me as a fairly stout guy, pretty athletic, I like to think most days. Um, um, I have different circumstances than
I know. Listen, I
female.
know you look real fit, though. You look fit.
Yeah, I
I've seen
appreciate it.
some of I've seen
Appreciate
some of our officers bless their heart in the donut shops and the gros. I saw long time. I used to
it.
joke about
Yeah.
it. I said, man, the donut shop, how you going wrong with all this sugar in your system?
Right. And that irks me because I take this job seriously. So I like to see people taking their fitness serious. But I have different circumstances than a 5 foot, 20-year-old, 110-pound female. I have different shooting capabilities. I know how well I can shoot. I know about what shots I don't need to take, and that's important, not only in us, the way that we talk about what happened and what officer did, what they should not have done, but that changes the circumstances and what they feel they should have done. I mean, he must have been comfortable with making those shots.
Making those shots.
So
Okay.
I feel like he knew that he would have been able to accurately shoot his firearm from that distance. So I can't really consider the fact that somebody else may have gotten hurt, because we always tell them every shot that comes out of your firearm, you're responsible, and they have your name on it. And so you, even if it's an innocent bystander, you have to be accountable for everyone. So
one of my viewers is asking a question. Uh, Alice Walters. She said, okay, she just deleted her message. Okay. She asked a question and then she deleted it.
Okay.
All right. Let's continue then. I don't know why she deleted her. I was just about to read her comment. Oh, I believe she said something about the young lady was asking for help. That the 15-year-old was jumped and she was asking for help. And, she had a knife. So I believe that was a question that I read before she deleted her comment.
Absolutely. And that's something valid to bring up. And I think I've heard that several times, that she was the one who actually called the police. But when police officers get to a scene, they have to assess everything. They have to determine what's going on. We've had, for instance, domestic violence situations where the abuser was the one calling the police.
Wow.
But if we come in automatically assuming that because he called, he's the victim, or because she called, she's the victim, then we may get things wrong, and we may not be able to give them the adequate assistance that we're there and hope to do every time we go out on a call. So yeah, she definitely called. And then it's unfortunate that as soon as that officer got there, before he could get a few words with anyone, the attack then happened, when she started to try to stab several people there. So
wow. I guess another thing, I was having a conversation with some of my young people, and we're going to change subject a little bit. Again, family, if you are watching us tonight, this is Pastor Akimbandele on our weekly edition of What's Going On. Tonight, we are talking about all the police shootings in our country. And I just didn't want to listen to people on social media with their comments. They're not even experts. They're just talking and making their comments and making videos. I wanted to talk to somebody that's in the police force that we could talk to, that could actually enlighten us. And I called Missouri City Chief of Police, and he recommended Lieutenant Jazton Heard to talk to us tonight. So again, welcome if you are watching us. If you have any question, go ahead and ask your question. One of my viewers, Olufemi, said the officer was a trained expert. So there's no way he could have shot somebody else. Just like what the lieutenant was just telling us, that this officer was trained. Now, let's shift our subject a little bit to gun violence in our country. There are so many people now that are getting concealed handgun licenses. They are buying guns and bullets, and I mean, it's just unreal. I was telling a friend of mine, I'm originally from Nigeria in Africa. Nobody had guns, only criminals. And police officers have guns till today. In 2021, in Nigeria, where I was born, nobody, no citizen carries a gun or owns a gun. If you want to be protected, you can hire what they call them mobile police. If you feel you are going in an area that you'll be threatened, or maybe because you are wealthy or you're driving a nice car, you literally can hire, they call them mobile police officers. And they will be in your car with AR-15. I believe that's what they call that big gun with a lot of bullets. Because I was in Nigeria just 2 years ago, we had two of them in our vehicle. They have followed us from the airport to where we were going. I mean, they were hired by, our families in Nigeria because just because of all the problem going on in the country. So they wanted us to make sure we were safe. Even with my brother, my younger brother just passed away in Africa about a month ago, and his son flew down from Dubai to Nigeria. And when I saw the funeral, there were armed police officers with AR, is it called AR-15? I believe that's what they call it.
That's
what I just call it big guns with a lot of bullets. And he actually had to hire mobile police officers to be with him throughout the entire funeral until he got in his car, and the police officer got in the car with him and they drove off. So in the country I came from, you had no rights to a gun. If you are found with a gun, you will be arrested. You are considered a criminal. Okay. But I know it's different in America with these gun laws, and everybody think, oh, you're not going to take my gun away. It's my right. It's my constitutional right. Okay. Now, as a good person, a law-abiding citizen, if I decide to take a class and get my concealed handgun license and buy my firearm and all that, and I can, carry it concealed. My concern had always been if I'm stopped by a police officer for whatever reason, and they pull up my tag, they ask me for my driver's license, and I hand over my driver's license without my concealed handgun license. Tell me, as a police officer, how do you feel when you stop somebody and you know they are a concealed handgun, a license holder?
Well, for us, actually, from the police perspective, when we encounter people with their license to carry or LTC, that typically tells us that this person has had a recent background check or active background check showing that he's not a felon or not, she's not a felon, not a criminal, doesn't have any domestic violence charges and stuff like that. So typically, it's a pretty good sign for us when we encounter somebody who has an LTC.
So it's okay to have that license then.
Absolutely.
But that's been my thing. Like, okay, be my luck. I go get the license, and then I'm driving and I get stopped, and just because I give him my license, oh, he has a gun. He's a black man.
Nah, it's a lot of that's been a large increase of the LTCs we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot more lately. And it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, we know that you've had some type of background done. So it typically, for most people, they're like, okay, cool. They may ask you if you have it with you,
Okay. Now let's talk about that, Officer. Lieutenant Jazton. Let's talk about that. Hey, family, welcome. If you are just joining us, I see many of you have just joined us on our program tonight, our weekly program, What's Going On. Tonight, we are dedicating it to talk about the police shootings, and we have a highly recommended Lieutenant Jazton Heard from Missouri City Police Force with us tonight, educating us and answering questions and dialoguing with, whatever questions you will have, I ask him those questions. So we welcome you on tonight. Right now, we are talking about the people that actually own guns and they have a license to carry and all that. And I thank him for his answer. But let's role play here. I get stopped by the police officer. I give them my driver's license and my concealed handgun license. Now, I am very cautious. I was telling some of my young people that, listen, I'm buying a case that I'm going to put right by my mirror, to where the moment I'm stopped by the officer, I'm going to pull both licenses out. I'm going to lay it right there on that case, my windows down, so that my hands on the steering wheel. And when they show up, how you doing? Where you going and all that? Can I see your license? Officer is right there on the dashboard. You can pick it up yourself. Is that a good idea? Because that way I don't have to reach in my glove compartment. I don't have to reach in my pocket. The license, both licenses are sitting right there by my mirror, and the officer can pick it up themselves. Is that a good idea? What do you think?
I think it's a great idea. I would enjoy that, and to be able to come up and once again, it starts with a little empathy and just in thinking about if I'm the police officer having to walk up to this vehicle, um, how would I react or what would I be thinking? You know, what would I want a citizen to do for me? And it's just great to have your license. If you want to, provide your LTC, you can because it's in the vehicle with you, or maybe it's visible, so you want to make sure that you provide it to them. Go ahead and provide it to them, but have everything ready in your insurance papers. You know, and a lot of people have it now on their phones. So just even knowing where you can get all of that stuff and not having to dig around to the back seat or
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. You know, an officer can navigate that, and we always have to remember that the amount of contacts that police officers are having around the nation is in the millions. It's like 60 million contacts, you know, including calls for service and all of that. It's only a limited amount of them that you're seeing that are resulting negatively. So just keep that in mind. But you know, it's great to have everything ready. Keep your hands where you can see them. If it's a late night, you know, I even roll down both of my windows. Even when I get pulled over, I have my license ready. I have my insurance papers ready, and I roll down both windows so that he can see in, and I even turn on the dome light for him, you know,
Okay.
so that he's
That's
as
good.
comfortable
Okay.
as possible, you know, and then from there, even if I feel that you know this person may have an attitude or something like that, it's my job to leave this traffic stop with my life, you know, and being on the side of the road and arguing with somebody or you know, it's just so unfortunate to see so many videos these days where people are going viral for I guess call themselves like owning the police. That's like a
Yeah,
thing,
arguing
you
with the
know.
police officer and
Yeah,
calling them
yeah,
out of their names and
yeah.
all
It's
that.
just I think that increases your chances of things not going as smoothly. You know, not saying that it increases your chances of getting killed, but just you know, the best thing is to just speak to them. You know, if that person has a attitude or you feel like they're unprofessional, one thing that I always say is everybody has a boss. Everybody has a boss, but it's not your job to be right there, being in there on that scene, you know, trying to what we call having court on the side of the road, you know,
Yeah.
and talk about, no, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Just be polite, and I'll venture to say that if you, especially in Missouri City, most of the time those, eh, I would say almost all of the officers are going to be polite. They're going to joke around with you. They're going to talk and that even increases your chance of not getting a ticket, you know. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I've had situations in Houston, in Sugar Land, where I thought I was going to get a ticket. I was speeding. I didn't realize I was speeding. It has been several years now, probably 7, 8 years ago, and I got stopped.
Yeah.
And I put my license out, my insurance papers, I laid it on the dashboard, my two hands on the steering wheel, windows rolled down. The
Mhm.
officer showed up and said, can I see your driver's license and your insurance? Now, this was years ago. I just reached out on that dashboard and I hand over to him with my hands back on the steering wheel. And he went back to his car, came back, and he said, I caught you doing this speed. And all I said was, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize I was going that fast. Do you know the officer did not give me a ticket? He actually told me, okay, Mr. Bandit, you need to slow down.
Okay.
Wherever you're going, it's going to be there. I thought, oh, wow. I learned that day it's good to be nice to the officer.
And
Tell them, yes,
unfortunately,
sir, yes, ma'am, comply. Let them see they are human beings just like yourself.
absolutely.
I one of my sons in the ministry actually he goes crazy with this. He told me he got stopped by the officer, which I don't recommend anybody should do this. I'm going to ask you, Lieutenant. When the police officer pulled him over, he opened the car door
Mhm.
and laid on the floor with his hands in front of him. He told me the officer came to the car and busted out laughing. Now, he actually had a warrant for his arrest or he had some tickets. But do you know, because he did that, he told me the officer actually let him go.
Wow, wow.
I said, but I wouldn't be coming out of no car.
Yeah, that's not the best thing to come out of the car. I wouldn't recommend that. I would not recommend it.
He told me one time he actually rolled down the windows and he had both hands out out of the window and his head out out of the window. I said, well, I don't know. I mean, but again, I just don't know with a situation. I have one of our viewers as they come in right here. I'm going to ask you, Dwayne Cotton, Lieutenant. Was the new law that was passed recently concerning open carry in Texas? I don't know if the law has been passed, but
it hasn't been passed yet. But it's close to being passed, and I believe, and I don't know exactly what it says, but from what the glimpse we've seen thus far is that you won't necessarily need a license to carry anymore to carry your firearm. We don't know what exactly that means. If everybody will just be the wild west and everybody will just be able to have it out openly, but we'll probably have to get with our district attorney's office and talk to our administration here to figure out how we interpret that and how we're going to deal with it as a police department.
I don't know if I like that law if it passed, even if I was a police officer. Now you don't know who is carrying. Yeah. You don't know who is the bad guy is, who the good guy is. You don't know what they have in their car.
For sure.
That is going to be really, to me, I think it's dangerous. I don't know if anybody has any comments about that. I wish they would just leave the laws alone, that let's do background checks on all of these people, give them a license to know that they are not criminals. They have the right to carry firearms. Yeah. But if they pass that law, now you're going to have people, the bad actors.
Yeah.
That's going to be carrying guns all over our state.
And one thing we have to point out about that is, even if they make it legal to have a gun at all times, people have to be very careful about how you're living life and making sure that you're not violating any other laws, because there's a law that's by the name of unlawful carry of a weapon, where if you are found to be in violation of any Class B or arrestable offense, that now, and you are in the possession of a firearm, that you can be arrested for unlawful carry of a weapon. So, you may say, oh yeah, well, I can carry my weapon, but then the officer finds some illegal substances in your vehicle, or you're driving while you're drunk, or you assault someone, or anything that can be constituted as a Class B or a higher offense. And now your gun can be taken, and you could be taken to jail for a weapons charge.
Wow. So even though if the law passed and you can carry it, but if you have all the criminal background, whether you're a felon,
felon.
So if
domestic
they catch you with it, so if they catch you with it, it's really going to be bad for you.
Yeah, you can go to jail for it. You can definitely go to jail for it. So we'll have to see what happens with it, And what I was going to say earlier, while you're telling me about getting pulled over, is I was going to say, unfortunately, on some days, coming across a person that's just very polite and just being nice and speaking to us, it's like a breath of fresh air for some of the police officers. So I always tell my family, I'll say, well, you have the responsibility to give an officer a positive experience, so that he doesn't expect, or she doesn't expect, that everything is going to be stressful all of the time,
or combative,
combative every time. I mean, they're humans too, and that definitely takes a toll on them. And if he has to come to your house later on that day, and figure out an assault call, you don't want them to be stressed out. I mean, I still feel good about the way that officers will perform, but do you really want the stressed out officer who's been cussed out all day and called racist all day and all of that, and to come and have to figure out and help you now, so
wow,
there's many levels to it.
Yeah. Thank you, Lieutenant Jazton Heard. Again, some of our viewers are joining us. We have Lieutenant Jazton Heard from Missouri City, a man talking to us about the police shooting and how we need to interact with our law enforcement people, and how to behave when you're on the road. Don't run, don't resist arrest, comply with verbal commands, And just understand they are human just like you are too. You want to get home to your family, they want to get home to their families. And somebody asked a question, Alice Waters, why do police officers always think that they are always right when they stop someone?
Well, most of the time, an officer, I would say all of the time, at least here in Missouri City for sure, you will not pull over someone if you're unsure about the violation that they have committed. So, whether they're right or wrong, the most important thing to remember is court is where you figure out if
Yes,
you were right or
yes.
wrong, or if the officer was right or wrong, and then they have to present evidence. So even if you do feel that you didn't commit whatever violation, it's still, you may not even get a ticket. If I mean, you can talk to them about it and figure out, hey, no, I didn't, no, I don't believe that was me or whatever. And it's okay to have, some good professional conversation about it. But ultimately, if they give you a ticket, that's where we cuss and fuss on whether I actually did it or not. And then that
Yeah.
officer has to present those facts in court. So I
I
say
mean,
don't get hung up on that. Don't
yeah,
get hung up
yeah.
on that at all.
You have your day in court.
You have your day.
Because like maybe 20 years ago, I got a couple of tickets and the officer wrote the ticket and I said, thank you, sir. Thank you, officer. And have a nice day. But I knew I was going to court. I didn't have it. So he told me where the court was going to be. I said, thank you so much, officer. And you have a blessed day. And I drove off. He drove off. I went to the court. I pleaded not guilty. I never plead guilty. And I told my family that don't plead. I pleaded not guilty. And they asked me, how do you want to be tried? I want trial by jury. Okay.
Yeah.
And both tickets, I believe the officers didn't show up for the court and the tickets were dismissed both times. So, I mean, you have your day in court. There's no need for you arguing with an officer. The officers on the street are not looking to just stop anybody. Okay. They stop you, it may be because you're on your phone and you are weaving the lanes. It may be you have a tailpipe, a tail light that's burnt out. It might be they notice that you didn't have a seatbelt on, or you are on the phone, or you run a red light, or you just run a stop sign, or you roll through a stop sign. Most of the time, they have a reason for stopping you. I've only had one instance. I'm 62, soon to be 63. I've only been stopped one time in Sugar Land. As an African-American man, African descent, I just purchased a luxury car through my corporation. And I was going to the post office to check my mail. And the officer pulled me over. It was on a Sunday afternoon. And the officer pulled me over. I knew I was not speeding. I was not on the phone. So I pulled over on the side of the road, right there on Highway 6 Sugar Land. And he came to my car, asked me for my driver's license, and I gave it to him. I said, good afternoon, officer. How you doing? Beautiful day today. He said, well, I'll be back. And he took my license, went to his car, came back, and he said, well, I said, officer, anything wrong? Why did you pull me over? He said, just random check. I said, random check. He said, by the way, this car doesn't belong to you. I said, yes, it is. No, it's registered to a company. I said, yeah, that's my company, and I'm the president of the company. It's a computer company. I gave him the name of the company to let him know I know. I mean, he said, well, how can I prove that you are the president of this company? So I said, can I pull my business card? He said, yes. I grabbed my business card. I gave it to him. My card shows the company name. I'm the president of the company, So he said, well, you have a good afternoon. That's a nice car. And I drove off, scratching my head. I thought, what happened if I borrow somebody else's car? Somebody else's Mercedes-Benz that maybe forgot I borrowed it and reported it stolen. I'll be going to jail. Anyway, we got another comment from Althea. How do you deal with someone with mental health when they have a weapon? Lieutenant Heard, if you were called to a home by maybe a mother that have a mentally challenged son or daughter, and they call you, and this person with a mental health actually has a weapon when you get there. How do officers react to those kind of things?
Yeah, so here in Missouri City, we send all of our officers. Well, the state is mandated that they go through crisis intervention training, but then we also send them through maybe up to 80 hours now with mental health officer training. And all of the officers are trained or have a basic knowledge on mental health and the different circumstances that may surround someone suffering from a mental illness. But just like any other situation, they have to get there and assess what they have going on. Um, when we commonly encounter people uh, with firearms or just saying that they want to kill themselves, and we try to do all we can to be able to help them and get them to a hospital. There's so many different circumstances, and like I say, everyone tries. It's hard not to look at um, like different situations and try to like put them all in one ball, or say, hey, this is specifically how it's going to be. Any little factor can change
Can
a
change, yeah.
situation totally, and most of the time we're pretty successful in talking out those people down away from their weapons and getting them to come with us so that they can go to the hospital. But we give those situations special consideration, and we just try to do everything we can in our power to get them the help that they need. But we also have to be careful too, because
Yeah.
commonly those people haven't committed any crimes. So we also don't want to violate their rights or make them, do anything heinous or put them in a position where they'll be threatening the lives of someone else or whatever. So we just try to deal with them the best way we can, but we're all trained in it. We're the department is always trying to find new ways to enhance our mental health officer services and see what we can do as a department to help those suffering from mental illness.
Thank you. Thank you. One of Patsy Dale made a comment. The best way to make sure you're going to get them to your family is respect the law and respect authority. That's what she said. I know our time is almost up tonight. In the next maybe 30 seconds, I want to ask you a question about why is it that when you have vandalism or somebody breaking into a building or a home and you call the police officer or you call 911, officers don't show up for 2 to 4 hours. But if you call and you say, shots fired, 2 bodies down, they show up in no time. Because if somebody calls, you drive into your house or to your building and you notice it's vandalized and there may be somebody in there, and you call the 911 and then you have to sit there for an hour to 2 hours without them showing up. But if you go in your house or you go in your building and you confront the robber and you shoot them, the police officers show up like in no time. Why is that going on? Because it's happening a lot. And it's happened to me quite a bit where they even arrested the person that broke into the building, took him to jail. 2 days later, the guy is back on the street again. The guy has punched church members from our church, punched them in the face, called the police, they arrested him. 2 days later, he's out of jail, he's back at the same corner. Last week, this same guy jumped on a woman's car on the street and hanging on the windshield. And they called the police, they came, they took him to jail. Wednesday, when I was at the church, he was back there on the street again. I thought, how do you handle this kind of stuff? Because eventually this guy may get hurt by somebody that's not going to be waiting on an officer to take care of it. What do you do when the same person is committing all of these offenses and you calling the police, you're reporting, you're calling the police? What do you do?
The average response time for calls here in Missouri City, even when it's not assault in progress or a class one crime, is 7 minutes. So And if there is a situation where somebody has to wait an hour or which does not happen, and we wouldn't be able to sustain a below average response time, a national response time, if we had calls holding like that. But if it did, it was because we have something major going on or a lot of other things, and we just don't have the personnel to respond. But we typically, even in those situations, we try to make a call to those complainants and let them know that this is the circumstances right now, and you may be waiting for a while. When
Okay, okay.
when we have people that are constantly terrorizing our streets or being a nuisance to the business owners and stuff, we know that every situation is different, and there's no cookie cutter approach to anything. We
Yes,
try to
sir.
figure out, why is this person acting like this, and what can we do to give them the help they need so that they don't come back and continuously commit the same crime. So I wish you the best in that, because it you can't just take a person to jail and you know and that be it. Some days, sometimes you got to figure out, go a little bit deeper to figure out what's going on with them. and
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 it's not Missouri City, by the way. This is
okay,
Houston.
okay, okay,
Houston.
okay.
And they, like I said, it's happened at least 4 times where there was a burglary. I knew the guy that did it. I have a video of him and doing it. They just, it took them 2 hours to get there. And even last week, an alarm went off in one of my tenants' office, and I didn't know the alarm went off. 3 hours later, I was at the church, and two officers was at the door.
Mm.
Alarm went off. I said, So I opened the other building for them. They look inside and they left. And then later I found out that alarm went off 3 hours prior. I thought 3 hours for a response.
Wow.
Anyway, but I'm glad it wasn't Missouri City. Missouri City is doing awesome.
And I will say, that that's what makes law enforcement interesting and challenging at times, is that all of these different jurisdictions operate a little different, and so I try not to make the mistake of speaking on behalf of too many other agencies. I can tell you
Yes,
what we
sir.
do here in Missouri City. I know what's going on here in Missouri City, and
What's going on?
what's going on, so you just take that in consideration from anybody. I know most of the people probably watching are from Houston area, but if you're in a different jurisdiction, it's very important to get to know who your police officers are, who's the police chief, how they're operating. And training is extremely important. We talk,
Yes,
a lot
sir.
of people talk about defunding the police, but I my personal opinion is we need more training. You want
Yes.
the best of the best people, that's able to get in front of those video simulators, that's able to do real scenarios so that they can see how well they handle stress, and don't let the first situation that they have, or don't have a situation for a long time, and then now they're in a situation where they're dealing with a person running from them with a gun, or a person trying to run from them in a car. No, we want them, and we want to hold them to a high standard. We
All
want
right.
officers that really want to be officers.
All right. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Lieutenant Jazton Heard from Missouri City Police Department with us tonight, educating us, enlightening us, and dialoguing with the people in the community, answering our questions that we have about the shootings in our country, and actually just, deal with his city where he is at. And I thank God for their chief of police, and I thank God for Lieutenant Jazton Heard. In 30 seconds before we close tonight, do you have an advice you would like to give to my young people, my young youth and young adults? What advice can you give them when they interact with the police officers on the street or anywhere they at?
I'll say it once again, that empathy goes a very long way, and just take a second sometimes to really just put yourself in that officer's shoes.
Yes,
And
sir.
if you were the person having to walk up to that vehicle, with the tinted windows at night, that was speeding, how would you want that encounter to go? And you deal with it from there. If you have any kind of issues on the side of the road, it's definitely not the place to deal with it. You want to go to court, or you want to get in front of that person's supervisor, but till then, you cooperate. Most agencies across the nation have body cameras, so there'll be some type of footage available, so you don't have to have the urge to have your camera up, but just cooperate and make it easy for them. And not only do you have a lower chance of getting a ticket, but you're one step closer to the ultimate goal, which is leaving that encounter with your life,
Yes.
partner. So I just encourage everyone to think about what the officers have to deal with. What would you do? And just be very careful about, all of the media sites and stuff. The job that they have is to get you to continuously tune in. And, something we see a lot is, on the social media, people think, well, man, I'm seeing a lot of things, so this must be the reality. But just take a second to really question that, and look into any situation. Don't just read the headline. And cops need to be just like any other profession. We all need to be held accountable. But just look into the details and be able to say, oh wow, I didn't know she had a knife. Be able to say, hey, okay, well that person did have a gun, so the circumstances kind of changed for them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time with us tonight. Family, our time is up. I want to thank all of you for allowing us to come in your living room, your bedroom, your offices. And if you're in the jailhouse watching me, thank you for watching us on YouTube on tonight. Many of you may not have been joining us live. You are catching this broadcast later. Go ahead and watch it and share it with your children and your young people, your young adults, and listen to what Lieutenant Jazton Heard is advising us to do when we encounter them on the street. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Again, I thank Missouri City Police Department. I thank Chief of Police there, and I also thank our guest tonight, Lieutenant Jazton Heard, Missouri City. God bless all of you. I pray that the Lord will bless you, the Lord will keep you, the Lord will make his face to shine upon you. You stay safe. I'm not going to say goodbye, but I'm going to tell you I love you, and I will see you later if the Lord wills. Good night, everyone, and thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you,
Yes,
Pastor, for
sir.
your time.
Yes, sir.